This is a instructional video to show how to empty the Pluvio bucket and then reinstall the housing. My name is Baker Perry. I'm on the campus of Appalachian State University at one of our campus weather stations. And the first task is to loosen the knobs that hold the housing over the bucket to protect it. So there's 3 knobs, and they should only be finger tight. In the event that they're not finger tight, you can use a wrench or some pliers or something. Take the housing off, and then depending on how long it's been since the bucket has been emptied, there could be considerably more liquid in here. There's not a lot in here because I emptied it back in just a couple months ago, and it's been pretty dry the last few months. It's normal to have a lot of dirt and insects and kind of debris in there. And I'm going to dump this. And since the cold season is nearly upon us, I'm going to put some antifreeze into the bucket to prevent water from freezing and rupturing the bucket or damaging it, or in some cases if there's enough solid precipitation, enough snow, then the snow can actually fill up to the top of the bucket, and then the additional snowfall is not measured. And so this is why adding antifreeze is critically important in regions that are going to have prolonged temperatures below freezing. It's important to add the antifreeze with the bucket off the scale, and then put the antifreeze back in the bucket, and then put the bucket back on the scale. You need to make sure it's completely centered. There is there's indentations here on the base of the bucket that should allow it to sit on there and be centered, and that's pretty critical. And then once that's on, we put the housing back on, and again, this needs to be lined up. There's a heating element in some of these housing units that needs to match up with the location at the base. And now it's critically important that the housing sit correctly on the base and is not touching or pressing down on any of the bucket. Okay, so you can run your fingers around the inside of the lid here just to make sure that there's a gap there and that the housing is not pushing down on the bucket. Because if the bucket's tilted, or if the housing is not on correctly, it could end up pressing down on the bucket, and that results in erroneous data. All right, so that's critically important to check that. And again, you can just run your fingers around and just make sure everything's still centered. Make sure that the housing is all the way down over the knobs. And once you have double checked that, then just hand tighten everything, and then you should be good for 6 months to in some cases a year, depending on the climate.